Four border crossings along the U.S. southern border with Mexico reopened today, and two of them are in Arizona.
The battle over border security rages on Capitol Hill. President Biden wants more money from Congress, he says, to address the record number of migrants trying to enter the country. But Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson says the president isn't being reasonable. He wants a return to Trump-era policies.
Joining us now is the mayor of Yuma, Arizona, Douglas Nicholls. Mayor Nicholls, thanks for being with us. Talk to us about what this looks like from your point of view and the specific challenges now your city continues to face with border security.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Errol and Lana. In the city of Yuma right now, things are a little bit more under control than they have been over the last 2 years. We're at about 250 people coming across today, which is still 10 times higher than what we would normally experience, but is a quarter of what we were experiencing a year ago. So we're in a good spot right now, but what's happening is we're getting transfers from other sectors and other regions in Tucson, San Diego, to process people through our Border Patrol sector here. And then our nonprofit here then does to help transition those people out to the rest of the country if that is what if they're released. So the big concern for me and our city is that those numbers stay under control and they don't need to release people to the streets, because when they release people to the streets, then we have people that don't have resources, don't have any sort of real knowledge of where they're trying to get and where they're at. They look for food, they look for housing, and those things that really could turn into a disaster, humanitarian disaster within our city very, very quickly.
And Mayor, has there been a domino effect from the border closure itself? I was in Phoenix just a few weekends ago visiting friends and family there, where they said they couldn't take their quick vacation to places like Rocky Point or Puerto Penasco, which is close to where you are, where folks will from that region sometimes vacation. That's a small price to pay, but I'm wondering if the closure itself had any other noticeable changes that you've seen.
Well, there's definitely was some of that activity that was diverted or canceled completely. And for those communities that rely upon tourism, that's a big impact for them. For us here, the port of entry in this area is San Luis Port of Entry, and we didn't have those closures. But again, it just increased the number of people crossing at our port of entry here. And so delays got longer, crossing times got more significant. But our big concern is when DHS reallocates resources, particularly when they move customs officials from our port of entry into other areas of DHS to assist the increases that they're experiencing, that it can impact how we process our commercial activity across the border and all sorts of just daily crossing that we have, just a regular part of our community.
That's an interesting point, Mayor. I'm wondering, what other resources does your city need and find lacking from either the state or federal level?
At this point, it's all about preparation. We are looking to prepare in case there's those public releases again. So we need to be able to have access to busing. We need to be able to have access for things that short-term duration type of things that the migrants might need. But really and truly what we've needed, and that I've really have asked for deliberately several times, is FEMA to step in. This is not something cities are geared to handle. We don't feed people, we don't house people. Guess who does? FEMA does. They house in emergency situations, they feed in emergency situations, and that's exactly what we're facing. So it's confusing to me and to most people along the border why the federal government wouldn't activate FEMA in that role here along the border.
That's a really interesting proposal. Has it gotten any traction?
It's gotten some discussion when I'm in the room, but I don't think it gets much discussion when I'm not.
And why do you think that is? I mean, your issue is so similar to what other border town mayors have been telling us this week, that while Washington fights, the local communities have to carry the additional burden of taking on responsibilities outside the scope of what your taxpayer funds let you do. So what's the holdup?
I think a lot of it has to do with perspective, which unfortunately comes down to a political tug of war. The laws that are on the books today are the same laws that have been on the books for decades. Yes, they need updating, but every administration, President Obama, President Trump, all of them have been able to create policies that have been effective under these current laws. I don't believe this administration has gone that way. And if they would go that way, they'd recognize the first thing they need to do is declare some sort of emergency situation where you can activate FEMA. And that wouldn't be a question. It would just happen. But that's not the position and the policy that you hear from the secretary. He says things are under control, that things are safe and normal. And that's not what we're experiencing day to day here along the border.
Really illuminating conversation. Mayor Douglas Nicholls, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.